Cape Town may be beautiful, but it's hiding a very dirty secret. Environmental Enforcement Agency, the Green Scorpions, has found that the city is lagging in its responsibilities to clear up polluted waterways in Milnerton and Deep River. The group says the city's missed deadlines and the situation even regressed in some parts. To respond to the Green Scorpions' findings on Cape Town's failure to comply with environmental directives is Zahid Badroodien. He's the new Mayoral Committee Member for Water and Waste for the City of Cape Town. Zahid, thank you so much for your time. You were issued with a compliance audit by the Green Scorpions for the work in Milnerton Lagoon and Deep River. Take us through what's been done and what hasn't been achieved.
Yes, morning. Thank you for having me. I think it's important to note that it's a fact that the City of Cape Town has amongst the best water quality standards in the world, especially as it pertains to drinking water. And so there's absolutely no reason why our inland water quality and our flares, our canals, our rivers and so on should be suffering. In terms of the issues at the Milnerton Lagoon, yes, it's been a long-standing matter that we've been engaging both DDAP, both OTAs and other stakeholders, as well as various community entities to ensure that we're able to find a way forward to resolve the situation. In terms of what is being done up to now, as you've rightfully mentioned, a compliance notice has been issued by the department, which has given us very strict requirements. In this sense, the city has already committed to making sure that in the short term we're able to put in the necessary catchment nets at the outflows. We're able to ensure that the necessary investment goes into the Potsdam wastewater treatment works, which will see a massive increase in the capacity to that particular area. But at the same time, what we're undertaking at the moment is a very focused engagement with the surrounding communities, which is impacted by various issues and impacts our infrastructure as a result of various issues. And this relates to the vandalism of pump stations, which impacts our ability to cope with the demand on the infrastructure, but also the dumping, illegal dumping within our underground infrastructure, which really does require community conversation, does require us to pull them in to this process so that together we're able to identify a more sustainable way forward, and so that we can resolve finally the issue of the pollution at the Milnerton Lagoon. I must say, as the new MACO member for this directorate, I am in the process of studying all the documentation, engaging with the stakeholders, so that together we're able to move forward and finally find some progress on this matter, because it is important not only to the city and my mayor, but to all of us as users of the water to be able to find the progress that we're needing here.
Zahid, I want to talk about the informal settlements that are often brought up, and the dumping from informal settlements that's often brought up as the reason that we're having these water problems. It's a little unfair, don't you think, to blame people for dumping things into the water system when there is the reason they're dumping in those water systems is because they don't have adequate solid waste removal services. So what's the city doing about that?
You're 100% right, and this is also part of the conversation that I've had already with our officials, to say that we put a lot of money into solid waste removal, but we're clearly not seeing bang for our buck in these areas which require additional solid waste attention. So that's part of the request that I've put to the administration to reevaluate how we're removing waste here, how we pull in communities to help us look after and pile up the waste so that that can be removed from their communities in order to avoid that going into the underground infrastructure. Absolutely, I'm not in the business of blaming any particular community, anyone in this. It's definitely multifactorial, as has been mentioned before, but the city does have a role in terms of improving our refuse collection. What can we do differently and better to improve the dignity in these communities? How can we make use of our education platforms to help communities understand the impact that dumping has in these systems? But also at the same time, it's important for me to mention that the city has launched a sewage reduction plan, a plan that will fill our vacancies, a plan that will proactively prevent these overflows that then go on to pollute our stormwater drains and then eventually the water bodies that are affected in this matter.
Zahid, before I say goodbye, I just want some clarity on the cleanup of Milton Lagoon and Deep River. How many directives were you issued by the Green Scorpions and how many were you able to comply with?
So at the moment, we've been able to comply with 5 of the directives, if I'm not mistaken, 10 of which are partially compliant. It's important for me to say partially compliant means that it's a criteria that is measured over time. So at this point of measuring, we're partially compliant, noting that the time frame hasn't been concluded, and only at the conclusion of that will the decision be made. And 1 non-compliant criteria, but also important for me to say here that it's misleading to say that it's not compliant, because National Department of Water and Sanitation must still make a decision on where the testing of this water is most appropriate. At this stage, they've determined it to be outside of the UV treatment process, not where these stakeholders wanted. But the Provincial Department of Environmental Affairs has gone back to the National Department to seek clarity, after which a decision will be made on this particular measure.